we want to know, or make sure that you all know, that the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen, that's for you to use. Click it, type in your questions. We'll hold the questions till the end of each presentation, and then I'll read them back to the presenter to get the answers for you. So don't be shy. Type them in there. We've had some excellent questions over the last couple of days. Get that out there. Also, we're going to continue today to give away a $100 Visa gift card randomly. No given amount of how many we're giving away, but we're going to start it early. We're going to start it now. We're going to thank Richard Graham for being with us for 2 days in a row. Richard, we've got $100 for you, and Stevie will be contacting you to work out the details of how to get that. So thank you for being present, and thank you for some of the great questions you've been asking throughout. Okay, with that, we're going to move over to more technology, because today we've got quite a few presentations that are in the technology sector. We've got Kevin Kerr from Storage Commander, who great friend of the storage group. Kevin and Storage Commander have been making extreme advances in their offerings, and I believe he's going to talk about some of that today, and also share with you, some best practices and some ideas on what to consider when you're thinking about your property management software, what it does for you, the security of your data, who owns your data. Oh boy, we could go on and on with all that. So Kevin, I threw you out there. Here you go, baby. It's up to you.
Thanks for that, Steve. I appreciate it. And this is a great job, great presentation, by the way, Paul. Really appreciate that. Let me see if I can get this going. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today for this live session, The Automation Revolution. Real quick, I had an incident with a light bulb. I don't know if when I accidentally shared my video there, but I cut my face on there. It's really distracting for me to read the presentation and not have this bandage on my face. So I'm gonna go without the video for now. I might turn it back on for the Q&A when I put it back on. But so this session, The Automation Revolution, I basically want to discuss talking about automation technology and how it revolves around the management software and pertains to each individual. Before going into that, I just want to give a very special thanks to the storage group for putting together this 2-day virtual conference during a time of limited interaction. It's great to be able to share this information through a virtual platform. I'm excited to be able to get together with all of you today. That being said, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Kevin Kerr. I am the marketing manager for Storage Commander software. A little bit about myself. I am a self-storage nerd. I basically just focus on technology over here. I love contributing to the industry. I've written some 8 articles that have been published. I've spoken at various state and national conferences over the years, usually on automation, digital security, or payment technology. And you can always find me in the self-storage talk forums as well. It's a great place to be if you have any downtime. So a little about what we do. Here at Storage Commander, we've been developing management software for the self-storage industry since 1998. Some of our more recent additions include our in-house payments platform, SCPay, which has shown an average potential savings around 17% on credit card processing, and Storage Commander Online, which is our amazing cross-platform management software. We have thousands of users across the globe and a variety of services alongside our management software. And I just wanted to include this quote in my presentation to emphasize what we try to do for self-storage. The advance of technology is based on making it fit in so that you don't really even notice it, so that it's part of everyday life. I think the goal is to create a seamless transition for the average self-storage operator during their day-to-day. Whether you're a single facility operator just looking to streamline tasks, or you want to operate a portfolio of properties which you want a system to switch locations easily, your management software basically acts as the central hub for all of your technology partners. So it's important to understand and have a firm grasp on what to look for. On that note, I just want to explain some of the key factors when considering management software. First off, industry software suppliers should have a modern cloud-based product as the greatest overall potential benefits for the end user. Additionally, providers should host their data on a proven, reliable data network. This allows your data to be stored at a local location near you, and it provides for a fast, reliable connection. It also allows your data to be duplicated on multiple servers, so it's safe in the event of corruption or disaster. Since the software is hosted online, it's also easier for partners to integrate their services, opening up many options for the users. Basically, unless you have a poor internet connection for some reason in your area, I always suggest cloud software. Next, I would usually address the flexibility and ease of use of software. You can tell immediately when trying a demo of a software whether or not the navigation flows freely for what you're trying to do. And the first step you should be doing is trying out that demo. While you're doing so, I think it's important and sometimes overlooked is to think about what you can incorporate in the future as well and how it will be able to handle those situations. For example, if you are operating as usual and then all of a sudden a crazy pandemic comes out of nowhere and people are too afraid to go outside, well, no more foot traffic leads to no more rentals, leads to kicking yourself for thinking you can use Excel to operate your business. Unfortunately, I can tell you with reasonable certainty that there is no online move-in integration for Microsoft Excel. But let's take the pandemic away. Let's instead say you've decided to expand your business and get a second facility. Congratulations. But you really didn't check out how your software is going to work with multiple facilities. And in some instances, you have to open up separate softwares in order to just accommodate that. So you can have one location per window trying to maneuver around between each facility. Other things you might think of adding in the future could be specialty storage, such as boats and RVs, and specialty storage could be a really good revenue generator, but not all industry software is prepared to manage sales with variable pricing for items such as like propane and electricity hookups, which are commonly found alongside vehicle storage. There's also the extra information such as VIN numbers, registration, and insurance, all of which can be stored in your management software alongside with pictures for liability purposes as well. My point is that you should be thinking beyond what your facility currently offers. Maybe you want to think about other profit centers down the line. There are other great things that go along with traditional storage, like wine storage, record storage, valet storage. I mean, the list goes on, and you'll need a software that can manage all of that. Lastly, cost is a factor, of course. I personally think that you should find a software that has all the features that you want and then think about cost last. I know some might be thinking that it's because I'm saying that because our software is expensive, but in all actuality, our software is actually one of the more competitively priced software packages on the market. It's actually funny too, because we've had some customers come over to us from other software providers that are more expensive. They've saved so much on even just the credit card processing alone that it's negated the entire cost of the software. It's kind of cool. So either way, I'm never afraid to talk about brass tacks with price. So according to the SelfStorage Almanac, the self-storage market is dominantly owned by small operators, around 73%. The majority of which only has a small staff on site expected to handle a wide variety of activities. So with the cross-platform management software, you're given more freedom to handle any of your daily tasks while you still stay connected to everything else. So you can take a payment from a customer in the office on your desktop and then show the next customer a unit while moving them in on your tablet. You can do a unit while walkthrough of your facility while marking off tasks completed as they're finished, like overlocking units or checking a unit that a customer moved out of. All of this happens on the cloud and automatically updates all of your other connected devices in real time. So what I really want to discuss here is how the management software interacts and pulls the strings behind the curtains while your tenants are going through your sales cycle and beyond. So we're going to go map out the potential customer journey right here and now. So obviously I made this for us, hence why it has the Storage Commander logo in the middle. But the basic idea is that all the technology revolves around your management software, whoever that may be. I tried to give this wheel of technology, per se, somewhat linear progression, starting with the websites and SEO, moving clockwise. But since some of these really just run parallel, and don't get hung up on the progression too much, please. At this point, you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but how are we going to get through all this? Well, I'm not going to go super specific into any area. A lot of these topics have entire sessions dedicated around them for educational purposes, even during this virtual conference. But what I want to focus on is the practical and potential application of these services and how they can benefit you right now. I think of these as actionable items that you could start on today if you wanted. So, like I said, I'm going to start with the websites, and your website's going to be the first impression a customer has of your business. Actually, Google listing is probably the first, but since that information is pulled from your website, I'm still going to stick with my original statement. I think all of us understand the importance of a website right now, especially in the COVID-19 era. But just in case you made your own that you're very proud of 7 years ago, or your niece made a website for you while she was trying to learn Dreamweaver for a class, I wanted to throw together a little checklist that, in my opinion, really has the bare minimum of what is expected for a modern website. So the first thing that should be addressed is a mobile responsive design. Your website should effortlessly conform to the viewport size of a desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile device. This is crucial since over the last 7 years, mobile usage has jumped up 222%. Right now, more than 53% of all internet traffic is actually done on a mobile device, and Google knows this too. Someone leaked this information to Google, and because of this, they decided to favor websites that are mobile responsive within their search results. So now, the unresponsive website that your niece made you and only got a C- on in her project is way farther down the list in the search results under your competition, and you're losing money. My point is, just make sure that your website's mobile responsive. Online features are crucial at this point, not only because of the restrictions placed on us by COVID-19, but because it makes life a lot easier for you and for your tenants. When you go shopping online or you want to book a vacation, there's at no point a time that comes and you wonder, what should I do next? That's because it's important to map out your customer's journey online and make sure it's as easy as possible for them to get from point A to point B. And that's because ultimately that's what you both want. The more hoops that you make for them to jump through, the less likely it is that they finish what they came to do. And when it comes to your website, I'm going to make the assumption that you want them to do one of two things: make a payment or rent a unit online. If you're thinking right now, well, I don't want them renting online. I want to be able to meet them first and make sure that they're not a crazy person who wants to store at my location. Okay, I get that. But you want to meet them so you can still rent them a unit. So you still want to rent them a unit. And that's also why I threw that third point into this slide too. The online reservations is a trademark tool for the self-storage psychic. For those of you that want to meet a person and find out everything about them before allowing them to rent space from you, online reservations still allow you to meet a customer and allow them to reserve that unit online. And they just complete that inside the store and sign the lease then. Tenant support. So I know I said that when a customer goes onto your website, they only want to do one of two things. And yet again, I still stand by that. But having additional information on your website can really help facilitate that too. It's funny because like I said, I go on the self-storage talk forums a lot, and I start to hear the same things over and over throughout the years. And one of the rants that kind of comes up constantly is the typical customer who calls and wants to know how much they can fit into the small size unit that you have. I know there's plenty of people on here right now that have heard that same exact thing, and that's okay. But in order to stop wasting your time with them and them calling in for this, you can put in additional information on your website in the form of an FAQ, size guide, or storage tips. I have these listed over here from easiest to hardest in regard to implementation from top to bottom, as an FAQ is pretty simple and it's just based off of the frequently asked questions that you actually receive. Storage tips is similar, but you're also putting in information that they might not think of, like laying a mattress flat so the padding doesn't shift to one side, or emptying out a vacuum to minimize the potential for pests, something like that. The size guide and calculators are the most complex to put into place since they usually involve visual and possibly interactive tools. That at the very least requires some graphic design and probably some coding experience as well. But when it comes down to it though, some of the storage calculators that I've seen online are honestly just awesome, and they're worth the money that go into them. All of these tools, they can not only just alleviate unnecessary calls into the office, but including them passively helps you in the search rankings as well, and possibly even be the tipping point for an unsure renter after hours. So I want to give online rentals their own little spotlight in here as well. I know this is going to be addressed later too, but I touched on it briefly when we're talking about the websites, but because of COVID-19, it's worth having a little more. We offer the online rentals, reservations, and payments at no additional cost for our Storage Commander Cloud customers. So I always think of having some sort of online integration as a no-brainer. But the fact of the matter is not everyone actually has those free tools. So I just wanted to take some time to explain the benefits so you can decide for yourself as well. When we were preparing for another webinar earlier this year, I was working with Stevie Harris, and I asked what the rental history for users outside of normal business hours were. And she came back and she told me that across the board, with people using their Click and Store 3.0 online rental tool, excuse me, 50% of all the rentals done were actually done outside of normal business hours. It's over 50%. So when a customer comes into your website at 8 o'clock at night and sees that they can't rent a unit from you, do you have enough faith that they're going to wait until the next morning? Or do you think that they're just going to keep looking so they can get it done? I don't know about you, but honestly, I just want to get things done. I want to take care of whatever I can when I can so I don't have to worry about it anymore personally. So if I was this person, I would be off to the next website so I can just rent the unit. One of the main great reasons that I think it's important to use a premium tool like Click and Store 3.0 with your management software is that you can upsell to your tenants for every rental. The ability to sell moving supplies, protection plans, insurance directly from your website is great. I'm not sure if you've actually had a chance to check out the design and interface for either their Pinnacle website or Click and Store 3.0, but it's really clean and it makes purchasing additional resources really easy for your website visitors. As far as revenue potential goes, I actually remember reading an article a while back where there was an underwriter. He was talking about how it was possible for an owner of at least 60 facilities to generate more than $2 million annually off of protection plans alone. Now, of course, not everyone's going to have 60 facilities, but regardless, the point is the potential for profits is definitely there. So for this next part, I want to tell you about an interview that I set up with this remarkably handsome older gentleman for some insight into those who might not be too savvy with modern technology. Mr. Evan here said that he in fact loved the idea of online rentals. While he might not be too good with customers and doesn't really like the idea of new technology, the online rentals did all the work for him. He came into the office one morning, he noticed that the units were already rented in his management software, the leases were already in the tenant history, and he can continue working on his usual daily tasks, knowing that the website was on his side. So thank you, website, and thank you, Evan. You're a handsome man. Access control. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, obviously, because we just had the pleasure of hearing this straight from Paul. And thank you again, Paul, for that great presentation. Truth be told, I am very, very excited for this integration with Vispin. And as far as it goes, we know at its most basic form, access control, you want to be able to not only provide gate codes to renters, but also to revoke gate access from delinquent tenants. If you have climate controlled facilities, you may want to secure doors and other entry points into your building, as well as elevator access to floors of your facility. All of this can be done through your partnership between your access control and your management software. So with the introduction of access control apps over the last few years, it's been great. It's given operators more options and extra value for tenants. Depending on which control app you decide on to, you have everything from paying bills, which is extremely useful for locked out tenants, to opening up access points or contacting the facility directly from the app. These are also very helpful for accommodating tenants who might have physical disabilities, so definitely something to consider as well. Bluetooth locks. So I wanted to bring this up because I will always remember when they started announcing Bluetooth unit locks. I was actually speaking at the Inside Self Storage World Expo in 2018, and go figure, at the time my presentation was on automation technology. I remember going through my entire presentation, and at the end, when it was at the Q&A, a gentleman stood up and asked, what would you suggest for dealing with customer locks? And at the time, I had no technology related answer for that. So we discussed how kiosks could dispense locks and how some operators left locks inside the units and so forth. But I remember this younger woman, she was kind of fluttering around like she had something to say, but we pretty much just ended on a note. A little bit later, she approached me and told me that she's with Janice and they were releasing No Key, and it's now renamed SecureGuard, I think. And they just released this new amazing product for Bluetooth locks. Obviously at the time, it's a little late, so the presentation was over, but I also had the pleasure of speaking there next year at 2019, and the room was packed, and I was over there for another panel, and all that anyone wanted to talk about at the time was Bluetooth locks. So I got to watch from initial release to product maturity within 1 year. And I thought that was a very amazing experience. And I know there's still a lot of interest on those, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up in the last presentation too. I know, the prices vary on those. Last I heard, I think they were $200 per unit to retrofit, plus some other additional pricing, but obviously that very well could have changed by now. Either way, they're still a great value add, and the novelty of them alone is something worth considering. I don't know if you had the opportunity to be present for Tron's presentation on call centers yesterday, but I was, and it was great. I think the needs of a call center run pretty parallel with online rentals and kiosks and perform very well in certain demographics. Basically, you can use a call center staff to rent units, make reservations, and basically act as an on-demand assistant manager that grabs any phone calls while the site misses, and if the location's busy or the office is closed. And they can put all that information directly into the management software as well. Many of the call centers available for self-storage are work-from-home agents, which allow companies to reduce overhead and make their service a lot more affordable for any facility operator. I thought it was actually kind of funny. When I was doing research on this, I stumbled upon an article written by Tron himself, and this is from 2016 though. And it was hilarious. I almost felt like he was yelling at the reader for not understanding, but he broke it down into simple logic, stating that the average self-storage customer had a lifetime value of somewhere between $500 and $2,500. Okay, sounds legitimate, Tron. So he just focused on the low ball here and asked, when would you spend $200 to make that $500? Pretty self-explanatory. Then he went on to say, if you were to give him $500 for a check of $200, he would be giving you as many $200 checks as he could write. And for the life of me, I could not find a flaw in his logic. And in self-storage, you don't have a large staff, and calls sometimes come in waves, and it's no way of outside the realm of possibility that you're going to miss a call that person is going to call on the next one. And right there, that loss is going to be that $500 to $2,500 right there. So customer service was brought up yesterday too, and I really like the fact that members of call centers get trained and get industry experience. They follow simple guidelines that are set up from you, and they essentially act as another member of your team that will be professional and courteous to that weird guy that's calling at 3:45 in the morning. no judgment from the call center agent, and they're ready to put that customer right into your software, so it'll be ready, taken care of for you while you're sipping your morning coffee. Now, telecommunication is a fun part because it's one of the most creative aspects of self-storage, in my opinion, and really makes you think outside the box. You can do so in a bunch of different ways and decide what part of your business strategy you want to incorporate, whether it be promoting new rentals through referral programs or just adding to your already amazing customer service. I'm just going to start off with the most basic here, which is, of course, emails and notices. Now, the fun thing about them, though, is that there's no limit to the things that you can do with them. I can't speak for other providers, of course, but with Storage Commander, you can simply write your own letter in the editor or upload a Word document that you've already created, and it's ready to be sent out. Of course, I suggest using what we call merge fields that will dynamically fill in certain information, which you can use to make sending official things like late notices easier. On the other hand, set up lighthearted messages to go out for things like rental anniversaries. That's also a good idea too. One of the more popular things that I've seen customers use them for more recently is managers can print out notices for when a customer moves out and they clean a unit, showing that the unit has been cleaned on such and such date by the manager. That kind of transparency is something that tenants don't even know that they want until they see it. And from what I've seen, it's actually been going over really well. To add on to this, in any form of really communication, I always suggest having the customers opt into emails as well during the move-in process. It's important. I'm pretty happy that registered email has gotten so much attention during this conference yesterday as well. I actually had the pleasure of speaking at ARPO's virtual technology conference in June, and we were mainly discussing the importance of registered email and how that ties into management software as well. If you haven't tried using registered email over certified mail during the lien process, I do suggest checking it out because it's pretty cool to be able to see the recorded email history within your management software's tenant history as well. So text messaging has been around for about 7 years now, and while I'm surprised it hasn't been adopted by everyone at this point, it's still gaining traction. Text messaging has an amazing 98% open rate within 2 minutes of delivery. And again, as long as your tenants are opting into them, it can be a really great tool for your self-storage business. Similar to emails, they can be set up to automatically generate information to go out to your tenants, and primarily I see them used for late notifications more than anything. That's not saying that you can't use them for anything else, of course. A few other notable uses would probably be like thank you messages for renting a unit, or even as an exit message. So tenants moved out and you want to remind them that you'll still be there in the future for their storage needs, all of which gets saved in as any other communication does within your tenant history of your software. Regardless of your intentions, text messaging is a powerful and inexpensive tool that can play a big role in your business strategy. Payment technology has always been interesting to me because it's a field of self-storage technology that evolved very rapidly and almost demands that you evolve with it. I guess not really almost demands, but more like actually demands. Back in 2015, when they shifted liability to business owners for continuing to use swipe card terminals over EMV-ready devices. So the EMV, or EuroPay MasterCard Visa, is a standard of payments that came in with the introduction of those pin and chip cards, and I'm sure you all have by now. Admittedly, I was a little annoyed at first having to wait for my card to process, but it's already become second nature to me with all my purchases. And with the liability shift that happened 5 years ago, this technology has not actually been adopted as a whole by self-storage yet. Unfortunately, some processors and some software providers haven't seen the merit, but outside of the higher standard of security and avoidance of non-compliance fees that are flying around these days, there's also operational benefits to being EMV compliant as well. For one thing, it enables you to accept near-field communication payments, which in this day and age, where shaking someone's hand is taboo, forget about touching my debit card or asking me to even put it where someone else's credit card has been. I don't know who's been messing with that thing. I don't want to touch it. Everyone else knows cash collects and spreads germs, but according to multiple sources, credit cards and debit cards may have more types of bacteria than even traditional paper currency. With near-field communication payments, it allows customers to pay by simply tapping their card within close proximity of a compatible payment terminal. This also opens the door for paying for things through NFC-enabled devices such as cell phones and tablets, using digital wallets like Google Pay and Apple Pay. So with the limited physical interaction involved, the potential health benefits of NFC payments during this pandemic is pretty obvious. And let's face it, it is kind of fun to pay for stuff with your cell phone. So along NFC payments, other payment types which are helpful right now are virtual terminals, which are basically the use of web-based applications that's supported by point-to-point encryption, and it also uses tokenization for additional security for the payments. Very useful for taking those payments over the phone, and newer virtual terminals are also PCI compliant. I also want to point out that while automatic recurring payments are in no way new technology, they can be a key factor in weathering the storm during a period of lockdowns and eviction restrictions. So we had a great session yesterday from Tony over at storageauctions.com. And I just want to piggyback on that for a second with a couple points, since storage auctions are an inevitable part of the customer journey. While you don't necessarily need a management software integration to use this, we have completed ours. So it does give added insight and brings the whole process full circle. Additionally, setting up within your management software's lien steps, either manually or using an integration like AI Lien, who presented yesterday, or Late to Lien, it works out to create a seamless transition for your business. One of the main reasons why I think the online auctions are a great thing, particularly right now, is the process of storageauctions.com is completely done online. You avoid any need for social distancing and endangering your staff and your potential buyers. Of course, if there are eviction restrictions in place in your region, it's kind of a moot point. But then again, you can just focus on the fact that you're usually getting far more money per unit than you normally would without an online auction, and also without the hassle. One thing that I saw last month that I thought was really cool was that Self-Storage Auctions announced their timeline guarantee, which is a free service of theirs that helps prevent users from conducting a wrongful sale and help them follow state-required guidelines, which is awesome. Again, I keep quoting yesterday, but we heard from yesterday as well from Scott Zucker and Carlos Caslow about the importance of staying compliant within your state's lien policy, and putting this out there as a free value add from them is just really great of them, and I just thought it was worth mentioning. So revenue management, as a self-storage operator in 2020, you have a wide variety of revenue management options just waiting to be tapped into. Too often these options are overlooked and cast aside, but in order to give you the maximum return on your investment, I want to go over some actionable methods of boosting your facility's profitability that can be implemented immediately, depending on your software, of course. Rate change based on occupancy are rate changes based on the supply and demand of your available units, and intended to give you the best possible return on investment. While these changes can be quite helpful for some facilities, the considerations for these changes should not be taken lightly, simply because you set these changes to take place automatically within your software, and you have to be aware of any advertising that you might have in place previously that might not reflect the rates that you currently have in effect. If your self-storage software is already integrated with online rental services like Click and Store 3.0, it should already show the adjusted rental rates online, but be aware that your overall exposure is the key to avoiding any possible issues with your tenants. The last thing any manager wants is to quote a price that is not consistent with an advertised price. However, once these rate changes are in place, they can actually maximize your facility's profitability by automatically adjusting your rates to accommodate your inventory levels at all times. very basics of increasing your self-storage profits have always been increasing rates with a high occupancy while also making your lower occupancy units more attractive. And these rate changes are designed to accomplish exactly that. But one thing that I want to add to this that Carlos mentioned yesterday about potential lawsuits for price gouging. I know they're not the same thing, but I just think it would be wise to be careful with setting your rental rates noticeably higher during this time, as a higher rental rate than normal could potentially be misconstrued as an attempt for price gouging. We all know that's not the case, but better safe than sorry. The last type of revenue management I want to bring up is really my favorite. It's automatic time-based rate changes. It's a mouthful. In our software, you can attach a pre-made rate change to a billing plan, so when a tenant rents from you, it'll know to automatically increase the rate after a set amount of time. So for an example, you can create an automated rate change for a nice round 10% increase for new tenants, and we set it for 10 months after they start renting. So John Doe comes in, rents a unit, and then 9 months from now, it automatically generates and sends a rate change notification to John that the new rate will take effect in 30 days. Now you've generated 10% additional income from that unit moving forward. Now extrapolate that by every tenant that comes in moving forward, and you've got a substantial increase by really not changing anything at that point. My favorite part of this is that you never really have to worry about facility-wide rate changes and the potential backlash from a group of tenants. Each is handled on a small scale, so even if it seems like it might have a negative effect, you're really doing it per customer, and you really have the opportunity to make changes as needed. So you can kind of test things out, and if you think that a couple people have moved out after receiving the rate change notice, you might have set that rate too high. You might want to readjust it a little lower and then just see how that's going moving forward. Either way, setting it far enough in the future to where it's really not going to have an effect on your overall. So it's a very forgiving process. Well, I'm going to end it on this note and open up the floor to any questions that we might have. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope you stay for the rest of the panelists.
Great, thank you, Kevin. We do have about, I think, 4 questions so far. We got about 6 minutes, so let's see what we got here. First question is from Kurt. Does Storage Commander now integrate with the CRM system Call Potential?
I know that we were integrating with some of their things, like we do have their call center, so I'm not sure if that includes with their CRM portion of that, Kurt. I'll have to check with our engineering department and get back to you on that.
Okay, question from Richard. How does the accessibility of your cloud platform differ from your previous web platform?
As far as accessibility, are you talking about how to gain access to the software?
Yeah, he doesn't outline any more than accessibility of your cloud platform differ from your previous web platform.
I'm going to assume that he means kind of gaining access to it. So it still runs on the same back of it, but the difference being is that you can access this from a browser. So whether you're on your desktop on Google Chrome or something like that, or you're on a laptop or you're on an iPad, it doesn't matter. You can still take that with you going and access from any point.
Okay, another question from Kurt. Do you have information available on the type of reporting available in Storage Commander? Can you provide a daily data carve that we can use for our internal reporting?
I know that the reports that we have are extremely robust. We have over 150 reports in our suite that come with it. We also do make custom reports as well. I know that we've recently added things such as a super summary and some other ones that are actually pretty helpful. But as far as the data carve itself, I'm not exactly sure. Again, I'd have to get with engineering and see, but I'm sure it's something that we could accommodate.
Okay, and you may, just to add on from my perspective,
Sure.
filterability of reports, trying to drill in a little bit. What do you have there, Kevin?
Oh, you can drill in by a wide range of different things. We have them sorted through about 7 different categories, and when you're trying to drill down in for information, you can query the reports themselves. You can also export as CSV files and go through them that way, or if you want to manipulate the information any other way possible too. We also allow for custom date ranges as well. So if you're looking for, let's say, transactions on a particular date, you can drill down for that, or you can also set wider ranges to look at either single facility reports or multiple facility reports over an extended period of time.
Okay. Follow-up question from Kurt. Does your API allow us to push in changes to unit rates and move in specials based on our schedule?
From when you're asking we, is that as the facility operator pushing in those into the API?
I'm going to assume for Kurt that's what he's asking.
Yeah. Yes, you should be able to push in any of the rate changes and promotions directly in through there. We have a configuration manager that actually handles more of the higher level and corporate access that I would consider that as well. So that's where you would get that from.
He mentioned schedules too. So you mentioned scheduling rate changes. So you want to just, I got 2 more questions after that, but you want to just speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, of course. So the rate changes themselves, obviously outside of the 2 mentioned over there, you can perform just more typical rate changes and set by actually a very wide variety of different factors and schedule them out as needed.
Okay, yeah, and he clarified it a little bit more. He says, yes, changes from our own rate management system, we send in changes several times per day.
So you're using a third-party rate management system to go into the Storage Commander API is what you're asking then?
That's what it sounds like from what I'm reading here, Kurt. Yep.
I'd have to check with our engineering on that as well. Sorry, it seems like a lot of my answers are heading over in that general direction. But we do have a RESTful API, and if you have the connection to there, then I'm sure that's something that we could accommodate.
Okay. All right, great. Let's see. What Mark's asking, what type of training do you provide?
We provide a wide variety of training. Right off the bat, we have our orientations that happen beforehand and then after conversions. We have training videos online, a knowledge base. We do webinars and things for our users as well. Trying to think of any other sources, but yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
Okay. All right. If we get any other questions, Stevie will take them, get with you, Kevin, and then distribute to the audience as a whole so we can move on. I appreciate you being here, Kevin. I appreciate Storage Commander's affiliation with us and, how we work in conjunction, helping each other out. Great technology you guys have. And, anybody out there that needs to get more assistance and questions answered, Kevin's a pretty reachable guy. Thanks again, Kevin. Really appreciate you and Storage Commander.
Thank you.
Okay.